Rachel Maunder, and welcome to this first in the series of 5 short videos where in each video I'm going to be answering a question or concern that I hear a lot when it comes to sharing stories through speaking. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, because this is the first one of the series, I'm on a mission to get 1 million people just like you sharing their stories. Why? Because when we share a story, however big or ordinary or everyday that story is, someone somewhere listening to that story will take a nugget out of what you've said and will go on to make a change that impacts their life in a positive way in some way. That might be to do with their business, it might be to do with their health and well-being, it might be to do with their relationships and family. But trust me, someone somewhere will make a difference to their own life. And who wouldn't want to be a part of that? So I work with speakers. Most of my speakers and clients are early on in their speaking career, or they're new to the story aspect of it. And I work with them, first of all, to find those stories if they're in that place of not having one. And the most important thing is I work with them to craft those stories into their speaking. So the common thing that I hear, and this is part of my own backstory, as I was developing my speaking career, speaking skills and all of that, I constantly would get feedback about, yes, good topic, good content, good calls to action, well delivered, but we want to hear a bit about you. We want to hear your story. Now, I'm one of those people that don't have a big story. And what I mean by big stories are people that have achieved something against all odds, whether that's climbing a big mountain, whether it's coming through a indeed life-threatening circumstance, or maybe they've done something hugely magnanimous in the world, maybe set up a charity, created a big fundraiser or something like that. And I don't have any of those things. But what I do have, and what I know you have, regardless of whether you've got one of those big stories, is a whole mountain of ordinary everyday stories, that there is a huge value in sharing those. So that leads me straight in then to the first of the questions or comments I hear. What if I don't have a story? Now, I've just explained to you that you do. You have a whole mountain of ordinary everyday stories. I tell stories about when I was 4 years old and I ran away from school. I tell stories about when I was in my late 30s, early 40s. I lived in Thailand and bribed a Thai policeman. They're all silly stuff in a way. They are the sorts of things that might come up at a family gathering I get teased for, or somebody else gets teased for, that sort of thing. They might also be stories about a key turning point in my life where I made a decision. I could have done this, I could have done that, and I did this because, and you will have those sorts of things as well. So I want to then move on and look at a second thing that is often underlying this thing about, oh, well, I don't have a story, particularly if you haven't yet started speaking at all, but kind of on that point where it's on your agenda, as it were, because people keep saying to you, why don't you get out there and speak? And there's a resistance there where you're kind of thinking, what's the point? What's the point of speaking? Why can't I just carry on writing my blogs, doing my social media posts, turning up at my networking groups, whatever it is? Now, obviously, there are different ways of reaching a potential audience. I have a huge bias towards personal interaction and to speaking. Blog copywriters and things will have a bias towards writing, and all of those things have a value. But I'm going to give you my take on why I think actually sharing your story and sharing your expertise through speaking is important. And just to give an example, now if you go to a networking meeting, there could be 10 people there, there could be 50 people there, there could be hundreds of people there. In the allocated time of that networking meeting, you are going to interact with a limited number of people who can explore with you a little bit more about what you do. If, however, you are one of the speakers at that event, you have the whole room to engage. So that's 10, 50, hundreds, however many people that now know more about you. They know what you do. They know a little bit about your personality, because that's part of the thing of speaking, is bringing yourself to the front. And they also have some sort of thought about, A, does he or she offer a service that I need right now? And that's a kind of a binary answer, but there might be that middle ground of, well, yes, but maybe not now. If and when I do need that service, whether it's now or in the future, is this somebody I might like to do work with? And even if the answer to that is no, definitely not, at least you haven't wasted any more time engaging them. Now, I want these videos to be relatively short because I know this is your valuable time. So I'm going to sum up on what I've just said in this first video. The question was, what if I don't have a story? The answer to that is, oh, but you do. You have thousands of them. And even if you don't have what you would call a story, and you will have some kind of narrative, which might be a theme that emerges as we explore your life history together, of where, you know, perhaps you were always the person behind somebody else that enjoyed the limelight when you don't. Maybe you were always somebody who managed their money really well. Now look at you offering financial advice to other people. Maybe you were always the person that wanted to be the nurse or the doctor, and now here you are in a caring profession. So there will always be something that you can weave into your speaking about you. I've then looked at some of the common things. What's the point of speaking? And I've given you some answers on that. If you would like to explore any of that a bit more, let's have a conversation. My email address is coach@rachelmaunder.com, and you can find me on LinkedIn and many of the other platforms. So the next email with the next video will be coming to you tomorrow. I've been Rachel Maunder. Thanks for listening.